Hello and welcome back. So, today we are going to be talking about naming your podcast. This is probably one of the hardest parts about launching your podcast is coming up with a name and a name that nobody else is using. So, I want to give you 3 tips on how to come up with a name for your podcast. Number 1, think about your topic and the message that you want to get out into the world. And then write down any word that is associated to that. So if you are, let's come up with an example here. if So, for example, when I was coming up with the name for my podcast, which I basically just took exactly what I'm teaching, which is grow your business with podcasting. But I was thinking I want to teach about launching. So I wrote down launch, I wrote down podcast, I wrote down business, I wrote down growth, audience, any word that I could think of. So write down all the words associated with the topic and the message that you want to get out into the world. Next, number 2 is get quiet with yourself. I know this is hard for some people, especially some business owners, but really sit down in a quiet place with this list that you wrote down and feel into the words, which words really speak to you, and circle them. So, really connect with the words, connect with what you want to get out, connect with your audience. Now, you want your audience to know exactly what they're going to learn from this podcast. So, you need to make sure that your title is telling them your message, telling them what your topics are, telling them what they are going to learn from this podcast. And then 3 is don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't get too much in your head because this could be hard. I thought it was really hard when I was doing it. So take a break if you need to, focus on something else. And actually, the name for this podcast came to me while I was walking. I was out for a walk one day and I'm like, just call it what it is. So then I went home and I looked up if any other podcasts were called Grow Your Business with Podcasting. And they weren't. There were some that were close, but there weren't any that were called this. And so I took it. So make sure you're looking up and make sure nobody else has that name because while you can have a podcast with the same name, it can be confusing. So make sure you look it up and just trust the right name will come to you. The right name for your podcast will come. If you have a course or a program, you can name your podcast after that too. So that might make it a little bit easier. If you already have a name for something or a name for your business, you can call it your business name. Just make sure it kind of conveys what you're talking about, what people are going to learn. And yeah, that is it for naming your podcast. Basically, it's just really feel into it, trust yourself, trust your gut. Don't get too much into it. It will come to you, and just make sure that nobody else has that name. So that's it for this short and sweet episode, and I will talk to you next time.